Space is a vast, dark expanse that is mostly empty. However, between all the emptiness, there are pockets of matter. Stars, planets, and even life? The possibility of finding extraterrestrial life has intrigued humans for generations. It makes sense. If you find yourself in a dark room, one of the first questions you may ask yourself is, am I alone? Humanity is in a similar situation in the darkness of space, and as with my previous analogy, both answers to the question, are we alone, seem equally terrifying. Either we are alone and the universe is even more vast and empty than we thought, or we aren't alone. There are others, and we have no idea if they are benevolent or malevolent. Currently, the answer to our question seems to be that we are alone. At the very least, we haven't found any conclusive evidence of alien life. Absence of evidence isn't evidence of absence, though, and there are many who claim to have evidence of extraterrestrial life. While many of these instances may come from questionable sources, others have come from the American military, or even top scientists. The majority of these sightings get explained away somehow, but a few have persisted through years of scrutiny. Perhaps one of the most famous of these unsolved pieces of evidence for alien life is the mysterious WOW signal received in 1977. On August 15, 1977, the Big Ear Radio Telescope of Ohio State University rolled over the constellation Sagittarius and picked up a strange signal. The telescope focused on radio waves around the frequency of 1420 megahertz and corrected for background radiation. The telescope practically operated itself, printing out numbers for days on end before one of the resident professors checked for any notably intense signals. In August 1977, that professor was Jerry Emin. As Emin went over the days of readings, he found a strange string of characters among the pages. 6EQ-UJ5. What could this cryptic message mean? Is it an alien word for hello? Maybe even surrender? Fortunately, no. Despite what you may have heard from some spurious sources online, 6EQ-UJ5 doesn't actually contain any coded information. The truth is far more interesting. To me, anyway. It has to do with how the Big Ear Telescope operated. 1977. The date was 4 years before IBM released the personal computer. However, it was 8 years after the 11th Apollo mission that used large supercomputers to put men on the moon. So computers were far from ubiquitous. They were highly specialized, fairly limited tools, but they could do some basic functions. For the Big Ear Telescope, its computer could take the input of the intensity of light it received, turn that into a number, run it through a few simple equations, then print out a sheet with a final value. Using all 9 digits, plus 26 letters, the computer could print out intensity readings from a value of 0 to a value of 35. Most of the time, the computer just printed out a bunch of 1s, 2s, and 3s. Occasionally, you'd see a 5, a 6, or a 7. The WOW signal, however, got all the way up to a value of 30, represented by the letter U. So the sequence 6EQ-UJ5 is really just a series of intensity readings, not a secret alien message. What these intensities describe, though, is still fairly interesting. The Big Ear Telescope was only able to move its eye across the sky in one direction, up and down. To move left and right, the telescope had to wait for the Earth to rotate eastward. Observing the sky, radio waves would come in from some spot in space, reflect off the first flat radio mirror of the telescope, then bounce off of the second paraboloidal radio mirror that would funnel the light into one of 2 detectors, one offset slightly to the east and the other offset slightly to the west. The only moving part of this telescope was the flat mirror, which could slide up and down to change declination. The 2 detectors, though, called the 2 horns, are an important part of this telescope's operation. As the Earth rotated, one horn would observe some part of the sky a little bit ahead of the other. This first horn would register radio waves as a positive value, then the second horn would come along and record a negative value. For a patch of space with nothing changing, this would print a result of 0. If change was occurring, though, the 2 horns would have values of different magnitudes, and some number would be printed that represented the absolute value of the difference between these 2 values. In this way, the telescope was able to look for active changes in the sky and ignore the background radiation. Another important piece of the puzzle is to remember that this signal was observed in the 1970s. The technology of the time was not as capable as today's technology, so there were some limitations of the observation. First of all, the telescope's recordings occurred in 12-second intervals. The computer only had a megabyte of storage space, so it needed to print constantly. If the telescope broke its observations down into finer gradations, it would not only require better equipment, but a lot more paper. Similarly, the telescope observed over a radio range of half a megahertz, broken down into 50 bands, each 10 kilohertz wide. This creates something of a pixel size for the observations of this telescope. A very bright object shining for 1 second would show up as 1/12 as bright over the 12-second interval. Similarly, an object with a 1 kilohertz bandwidth would appear to be 1/10 as bright over the 10 kilohertz interval. Today's telescopes make readings down to fractions of a second, over bandwidths of individual hertz. What this means is that the WOW signal is pixelated and certain data is lost. AM and FM radio, our methods of radio communication, modulate amplitude or frequency to transmit data. If the supposed aliens sending the WOW signal were doing the same, we would not have been able to tell based on the data. So what makes people think that the WOW signal is artificial in origin? Well, there is something that the data did tell us. The signal stayed within a 10 kilohertz bandwidth. Our FM radio stations have a 200 kilohertz bandwidth, so this signal was tight. But why does that imply it was artificial? Well, most natural objects produce a smooth curve of frequencies of light. This is known as the blackbody curve, and all the stars we see in the sky follow that curve in the production of light. To produce such a small bandwidth of light seems to suggest an artificial origin. What could that origin be? Well, when something is artificial, that typically means it was made by humans. Some passing satellite or secret military vehicle could have caused the signal. However, the data was checked in the following days. No satellites were in the right spot. What about radio stations? Well, broadcasting in the 1420 megahertz band is strictly forbidden. This frequency is an emission band of neutral hydrogen, and it has been reserved for astronomical purposes. Also, any sources within the orbit of the moon would appear distorted to the telescope. After all, the telescope was meant to observe deep space, so something within a certain distance would blur like holding an object a few inches away from your face. The data was checked, and there was no blur. In 2017, an astronomer theorized that a passing comet could have produced the effect. Jerry Emin, the discoverer of the signal, disagreed, and the scientific community agreed with him. The properties of the comet did not match the properties of this radio signal. After Emin noticed the WOW signal, the Big Ear telescope was left on the same declination for a month. Night after night, for 30 days, it swept over the same patch of sky, yet the signal never repeated. An important aspect of science is that experimental results can be repeated. This can be a little tricky for astronomy, as you can't just repeat the explosion of a dying star. However, there are still some requirements. SETI, the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, dismisses the WOW signal because it has not been repeated. Without repetition, it has little credibility. Not to say that we aren't trying. This small patch of sky, outlining the shape of the Big Ear's two horns, forms a possible region of space that the WOW signal could have come from. This region has been scoured and is being scoured for days on end by state-of-the-art equipment. 43 years have passed since we observed the WOW signal, and this patch of sky has received celebrity attention. However, no repetition has occurred. In a last-ditch effort to coax out a response, or at least give someone else the answer to their question, "Are we alone?" METI, the messaging side of SETI, sent out a message to this region of space from the Arecibo Observatory in Puerto Rico. Sent in 2012, 35 years after the WOW signal was received, our message contained tweets from the public as well as messages from celebrities. This message is traveling in the direction of Sagittarius at the speed of light. It has gone 8 light years so far, currently whizzing by the Luyten 726-8 binary star system. We have no idea when or if the message will get to its intended destination. In the end, the WOW signal has not yet been explained, and it likely never will be short of an alien ship landing in Times Square. The story of the WOW signal teaches us about the workings of telescopes and the advancement of technology. While you may not have learned the answer to our age-old question, I hope you did learn something valuable today. If there are aliens out there somewhere around Chi 1 Sagittarii, let's hope that they don't mind videos of Stephen Colbert ranting about the movie Prometheus or whatever nonsense people post on Twitter. Thank you for watching, and happy Halloween.
Greetings, intelligent alien life forms. I am Stephen Colbert, and I come to you with an important message on behalf of all the peoples of the earth. We are not delicious. In fact, we're kind of gamey, and we get stuck in your teeth. It's really embarrassing at a job interview. If you want something good to munch on, go to the nearby Crab Nebula and bring a bib. Seriously, all you can eat. Also, enough with the probes. We have medical records. If you want to know something about our biological makeup, just call a primary care physician and have them fax over the files. No need to, wand us.